Welcome back to Learn Astrology with Mary. My name's Mary English. You'll find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk, and UK Astrologer. And today we have a special guest. We've got Andrea Leonarz. Pronounce it for me again.
Leonarz.
Andrea Leonarz. Thank you very much.
Yes, it's a tough one.
She's a consulting astrologer and she lives in New York. And we're going to have a little chat about how she got into astrology. And then we're going to go on to derived houses. So tell me, Andrea, how did you even begin to get into astrology? What was it that sparked it for you?
You know what? I think almost as long as I can remember, I've always loved astrology. I can't think of a single moment that sparked it, but I know when I was younger, every dollar I had either went to a new astrology book or I don't know if they sold these in the UK, but they used to have a little paper scroll with a monthly horoscope that you could
Oh,
buy at the counter at a drugstore here in the US. And as often as I could, I would buy one for Scorpios. So it's always sort of been in the background of my life. I was always the friend who knew a little bit more than everyone else and could talk about rising signs and moon signs. So,
oh, wow. What age did
I
you learn about rising signs and moon signs? How old would you have
like
been?
around 12, I remember trying to draw my natal chart. So I had a book
Wow.
that would, I still can't do the calculations well, but thankfully there's computers. But yeah, it was really
That's
young.
young. That's young
It's
drawing a
very young.
chart. I didn't even know charts existed until I was in my 30s. I knew what sign of the
Oh,
zodiac was.
really?
Wow, drawing a chart at 12. Deep
Yeah, yeah.
respect.
Well, it was still sort of like hobby-ish for a long time. I had a very successful career in beauty public relations. In the year 2000, I moved to the New York City, New Jersey area with my husband, and very fortunately found Robert Corre, who is an astrologer based in New York City, who was teaching classes. He still teaches classes. He's fabulous. Um, and it just was such a love affair with the subject once I started those classes and was really learning much more than you could ever learn from a book, right? You're getting practical application, you're getting real world experience. I took those classes off and on for 10 years. I took a break, I had some kids. um, in 2020 I started my website, and it was really sort of a blog, like something to do, some writing practice to share my info and see if I could find anyone else who may be interested in astrology. Very quickly I was getting requests for natal chart analysis, which was very flattering and very
Mm.
exciting. But it was still sort of background, like I would do it in my spare time. And then in 2022, I had eclipses on my midheaven and IC. And within 6 months, I left my job and I was dealing with a pretty serious health issue with one of my children at home. It took me out of the workforce for over a year. And I'm not 20, I'm not 30. It was difficult to get back into the corporate world. So I had plenty of time to jump into astrology and I think fill in some gaps where, maybe I felt not quite as strong. I am a Capricorn ascendant, so I never feel like I know enough, that I never feel like I'm ready. So it was a learning process. And then, you know, kept going, have been trying to make it more of a steady business within the last 2 years. And yeah, just been pushing myself a little bit. I've done some teaching, I've participated in events, I'm running a few events on a more local level, but the website is really still the best place to get like natal chart information or even just ask a question. Like I'm just so excited when anyone reaches out. Whatever you want to know, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. So
Yes, because I found you
that's
by a
me.
Google search. I just
Yeah.
searched for derived houses and you came up in the
Mhm.
first four
I can tell you
Google
that's our
hits.
my most popular post on the in the entire site. So,
Well, because it's a very well written
oh, thank you.
analysis of it, which is why I got in contact with you because I wanted to have
Yeah.
a podcast episode on derived houses because I'm
Yes.
marvelous at these types of things. But yeah, and so take me back to those early years. Then, can you remember some of the earlier books that you bought, who they were by or
Linda
anything?
Goodman was
Yeah.
first and foremost in my mind. One of my favorites still is Sun Signs. I have her whole library. I even have the book of poetry she wrote, and we read one of those
Go
poems at my
Birds?
wedding.
Is it called Go?
Venus Trines at Midnight, I think is the name
Oh,
of
that
it.
one. Oh, yes, that's. But
Like
she did write
super
one called.
random.
She did write one called Goobirds or
I
something.
have that too. Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, I
She
have
was
that
an
too.
Aries.
Yes, she definitely was. Definitely was. I have a bunch of Alan Leo books. Yeah, I can remember the titles of the books, I think, better than some of the authors, but I would think the more classic books, like I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so
Mhm.
that generation of astrologers. And I've just recently gotten into much more in depth again through, extra learning and knowledge. Chris Brennan's book I have, Demetra George, I think is fabulous. Those workbook style books that she has. I know they're on the pricier side in terms of textbooks, but they're fantastic. I think anyone looking to learn astrology and practice and have that hands on, those are excellent recommendations.
And so, how long did it take you to even know what an ephemeris was? I didn't even find out about I didn't know what ephemeris was.
I had that Derek and Julia Parker, is it
Ah,
the astrology book that they
yeah.
have? And it was
Mhm.
like there were pages in there that were a fake ephemeris or like a brief ephemeris. So yeah, once I started getting into astrology and how to calculate the horoscope, you kind of have to know
Mm. So
because
you
it
must
was
have learned
before computer programs.
you must have learned the symbols for the signs pretty rapidly then.
Yeah,
Squiggles for
yeah, I
this and
remember. Yes, I remember when I was trying to draw that chart on my own, like the calculations were fine, but it didn't click with me for a while that, the air signs were always going to be in trine. So I would sit there and I would count all the degrees and, looking back, I'm like, oh, yeah. But that's how you learn, right?
yes. Oh, that
Yeah.
does but that does take a while to learn. I mean, it took me ages
Yeah.
to know the difference between Gemini and Pisces, the
Hmm.
symbols for that, and then Virgo and Scorpio. I mean, this is way back now, but Virgo and
Yeah.
Scorpio are so similar. Like, oh well, it's one's got a point in it, so that's going to be Scorpio. What sign's your
Yeah.
moon again? Remind me.
Scorpio.
Right, okay, so Sun and Moon in
Yeah.
Scorpio.
And midheaven.
Okay, and then the Capricorn ascendant. Oh, okay, so you're not going to wish wash. You're not wishy-washy then.
I'm not, but I do have 4 planets in Libra, so I get just enough of like, oh, that's shiny and pretty over here. I'm gonna like this is gonna detract me for a little bit, but
Mm. So that's interesting. So you're drawing charts and you're a teenager. Did all your friends get really interested and want you to draw their charts up?
no, I had one friend who was into it, but it was more like, tell me about me. It wasn't like a serious study of it. It was more, information about themselves.
Mm.
But in high school, we had a psychology club that was sort of abandoned, and I took it over, and it became the parapsychology club.
Oh,
We did a
wow.
lot of astrology and like tarot reading and stuff like that. So
Hmm.
yeah, I have a lot of Scorpio.
Cool. And you've heard of Dean Radin? Dean Radin, is that how you pronounce his name? Dean
Oh,
Radin.
Rudin or something? Yes, yeah.
Radin. He's not an astrologer. He's
Oh,
he's a researcher in things like parapsychology
no.
and
Oh no.
PSI. Yeah, yeah, check him out. DeanRadin. He's the biz. He's a Pisces
Okay.
with Moon in Taurus, but he wrote a book called Real Magic, which is there's a new one out. But anyway, he's the researcher for the Noetic Institute and will give you the evidence for the research that he's done on this is
Fabulous.
parapsychology now and mind reading and all of that. He does all the research
Awesome.
which is
I'll check him
less
out.
interesting. So, but then
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not unheard of for Scorpios to be into the mystical.
Yeah. Yeah.
And have you had a near-death experience yourself or not?
No, no. I find my life, I think of it as very boring. I listen to people who have like these dramatic relationships and car crashes and things like that. And the only thing I can say is that everywhere I've lived, I've always lived either on a dead end street or near a graveyard.
Oh, how
So,
interesting.
right. Sometimes both.
Oh, I couldn't live near a graveyard. I had
Oh,
a friend, well, not a friend, somebody I worked with, and they lived near a graveyard, and it quite affected her husband considerably. He went through a funny
oh, really?
patch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He started thinking, mind you, he was being very stressed at work, but he started thinking that the people that were in the graveyard were visiting him and stuff. So,
Oh,
and their back garden, literally, their back fence wasn't even high enough to block off it was quite a big graveyard, the view of them. But he wasn't a Scorpio, so.
yes. It's funny because it's, the house I grew up in, there's a hill, but at the top of the hill, there's a fence, and that's the graveyard. And it cuts through to the town next door. So when we were kids, we would go sledding in the graveyard. We would cut through to go to the shopping plaza. Like I just didn't even think twice about it. I was like, well, this is kind of weird, but okay. So
Oh, how fascinating. I don't hang around. Well, obviously relatives that are passed over, then I'll visit them and stuff. And near me in Bristol, there is a very, very beautiful graveyard with wonderful sort of statues and all the rest of it. It's beautiful. Can't remember the name of it, but my sister walks through there a lot and I've been through it as well. It's very nice. So who would you say influenced you the most while you were building up your practice?
you mean in terms of authors or like people? Like
Either and both.
so authors, I think Linda Goodman, only because it was sort of my first experience, but she was such a great writer and it was very personable. It wasn't super technical. It was very easy to understand and engaging the way that she spoke about, Scorpio parents or Scorpio children and Capricorn, whatever. So I think I really gravitated to that. I love more of the esoteric side of astrology. So Alan Leo has a esoteric astrology book that was written before Pluto was founded. So some of these older books are actually funny to read where you don't get any insight into Pluto. But sort of combining the Indian mysticism and the Kabbalah and, Western astrology, that's always been fascinating to me. And I gravitate towards that. Um, in terms of actual astrologers, my teacher, Robert Corre, has been such a mentor and a friend and a guiding influence in terms of, the positive and the practical uses of astrology, and then how to go beyond it a little bit more. And derivations was one of the techniques he taught. And I think I gravitated to it pretty quickly because he explained, you don't need the charts of everyone you know. Your chart is a map of the soul, which is the reason for the title of my website. And, through derivation, you can gain insight onto these important relationships in life. And then as the classes went on, there is a way to leverage that derivation technique into more of the philosophical side, which again, sort of, it, very much fascinates me to sit there. And sometimes I look at it and I don't know what question to ask, but, it starts to come through. So,
It is fascinating, and it was only after because I thought I'm going to have to get you on the show. I'm going to have to get you on the show. You're going to have to explain more about it because I do basic natal astrology and readings and transits, and I use a website called astro.com, which is based in Switzerland, and
oh,
they
I love
make
them. Yeah.
they make the most fantastic. Have you ever seen the transit rhythmogram that's on there?
No, I'll have
It's
to
under
check that out.
special charts. It is super. It sort of looks like one of those things you get in the hospital for your heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it does it for each of the planets, and it does it for Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter, Saturn and Jupiter in that order. Pluto's at the top and it's a purple line, and Neptune is an aquamarine line, and Uranus is a green line, and Saturn is a yellow line, and Jupiter is a blue line. So you see the lines
Mhm.
going across. And then as the transiting planets aspect your natal planets, they might peak because they're exact. So you've got an
Oh,
exact
okay.
Uranus transit square to your natal moon type of thing. And
Hmm.
then depending on how high the peaks are, is how exact that aspect is and how it will sort of look out because it does it for a year. So it does it for, so in 2025 it'll take you 26 now, it'll take you up to 2030, so it's quite a few years and then you can see Pluto's flatlining this, and it's a really quick way of so I emailed Alois Trendle, the guy that owns the website, how did you even get this thing created? Because it mentioned some German person's name on there.
Hmm.
And he said, oh, no, it wasn't him that invented it, it was him that suggested it. And so Alois did the programming it to make it. But I really love it because you could just, even the person who knows nothing about astrology, you send them a transit rhythmic and they're going, oh, blimey, next year looks really busy with all these sort
Right.
of
Yeah.
peaks. Boom,
They
boom, boom,
see the
boom, boom.
peaks, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But it does explain it on there that peaks isn't good or bad. It just means there's more activity. Some people like a
Right.
quiet life and they love it when stuff are flatlining. Other people like me that would prefer a bit more activity. But it's very,
Right.
very visual, even for people that don't understand astrology. So I think that was, yeah, I use that site a lot. So what's software? Do you use software or websites
I
or
do.
apps?
I have the Kepler program, which I like, and I will go on to AstroSeek. I don't know if you've used that
I
website.
have a bit, yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, and I find that zodiacal releasing is sort of like a new subject that I haven't mastered, but is interesting to me. So to go in there and see, the peak periods and everything like that, and try and match and align, where did I, get my job? Where did I lose my job? When did I have my kids and how that lines up, and trying to teach myself that way in addition to other resources online or in books and things like that. So I really do enjoy that as well as a supplement.
Mm. And so you've got how many children?
I have two girls.
Two girls. Okay. And so when they were born, were you busily doing their charts? What happened when you had the first one?
It was definitely the mom in the delivery room going, "Where's the clock?" So yes.
And did it surprise you the charts they had, or did you sort of know leading up to the birth where the planets were going to
My
be?
older daughter sort of was a surprise. I really expected her to be a daytime birth. She was a 7:33 p.m. birth. So she's an Aries ascendant with a Virgo sun, and she is 100% that. And then my younger daughter was planned, like she was induced, but I didn't know how quickly I would give birth after being
Mm.
induced, but she was an afternoon baby, and she's a Capricorn ascendant with a Scorpio sun. So yeah, yeah.
So you gave birth to your twin, your Astro twin.
Kind of a very she's like 1 degree Capricorn on the ascendant, and I'm
Oh.
2849. So
Mm.
yes, I believe I was put here to guide her through
Mm.
the Capricorn Scorpio stuff. Whereas my
Mm.
Aries daughter is constantly teaching me to just like charge ahead and just don't worry about it.
Yeah, just do it. Oh, Capricorn and Scorpio are two signs that do get along, though. They're quite friendly to
Yeah.
each other. I mean, I'm thinking of
Yeah.
my husband's brother and his wife. So my husband's brother is a Scorpio and his wife, I've got that, yes, and the wife is a Capricorn. They've been together
Yeah.
forever. They met at university,
Yeah.
and they've had two kids and stuff. And there's no way that you would break that relationship up because those two signs do really, really get along nicely.
Right. Right.
I feel quite sorry for people. Sorry is the wrong word, but I feel quite, I don't know what the word is. I think it must be challenging sometimes to have an ascendant that isn't completely compatible with your sun sign. Like it's this so
Yeah.
sort of off, what's the word now? Off key to the sign of the zodiac that you are. I think sometimes people sort of struggle with that. But in the
Yeah.
UK, so you all know what your ascendant is in the US, right? Because it's on your birth
Hmm.
certificate. In the UK, it isn't. It's the biggest
Oh, they don't put the
nightmare.
time on?
They don't put it on. No, 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 because your birth certificate's got nothing to do with your birth. You go and register your child's birth, and I think you have to do it
Okay.
within so many days of the birth. They don't
Hmm.
ask you the time. They just want to know the name of the child and where they were born and the name of the parents, and that's it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So even though in the hospital, if you give birth in hospital, they will look at the clock because in my
Yeah.
case, I was induced, but it didn't happen, and we had a cesarean or whatever, and the nurse wrote down the time on the clock for 1 foot, looked up at the clock again, wrote
Oh
down another time for the other foot.
no.
So my son had two little tags that were two different times. But anyway, yeah, they'll write that down on the child's tags, or they'll write it in some information, but it just doesn't get transferred anywhere else. In England, in
Yeah.
Scotland, they do, but not in England. And it's the most annoying thing for UK astrologers that the
I guess
people,
so.
because then they've got to ask their mum, who might not remember, or they'll ask their
Yeah.
granny, or it might be written in a baby book, or and then mum will go, "Oh well, I'm not too sure." Ask your dad, and but you've
Right.
got it on your birth certificates. You're just so lucky.
Yeah. Right. I know. Oh, that's tough. I unless UK astrologers are much better at rectification. I don't know. Maybe they have to by necessity. So,
I don't know. They do a lot of Do they do a lot of rectification? I don't. I've never been asked to rectify. I just, if I don't know the time, I just use the default time of 6 a.m. and do everything whole sign. Just
oh yeah.
yeah. Um, because there is a method within astrology. It doesn't really matter the time of day as far as transits go. I mean, obviously you
Right.
can't do houses in that case. The houses
Right.
aren't going
Yeah,
to
that becomes a
work.
challenge.
Yeah. But then, if astrology wasn't a challenge, would we want to do it?
Exactly. There's always something new that I'm just, oh, here's this rabbit hole I'm going to go down for 2 months.
It's so easy to
Yeah.
do that. It absolutely is so easy. So tell me more about, so tell us about derived houses, Andrea. So how can
Sure.
we use them? You mentioned I love that when you said you could learn more. You don't need to ask about the other person. You could do it in your own chart. Tell me more. Tell me more.
Right. So derivation, it's funny because, I was trying to think of what you might ask me and, she's going to ask what derivation is. And I was like, well, derivation's derivation. I was like, no, I have to like really try and define it. So derivations, you can think of it as turning the wheel, right? Like you're turning the chart. It's a technique that that allows you to make any house the first house for someone or something. So it gives you more insight into that particular area of life. And we all sort of naturally do this. We have our first house, which is, life, it's the personality, it's vitality, and your partner, the other person, is the seventh house,
Seventh.
right? So that is the seventh house for you. But if you then make the seventh house the first house of
Mm-hmm.
the partner and use that as their ascendant represented in your chart, you can read the chart the same way. So their fourth house, their upbringing, their foundation is related to the sign and the planets in your 10th house. And that's going to tell you something about the way your partner grew up or the foundations and the values that they have there. So it's, just, you can think of it as, you're the first house, resources are your second house, right? Your
Yep.
resources are your second house. What are the resources of your partner? It's
Mm-hmm.
the eighth house, right? Because it's the second house from the seventh.
Yep.
So that sort of helps explain, well, why are debts and shared resources in the eighth house? Like maybe that doesn't make sense to someone just learning astrology for the first time, but when you realize it's the resources of the partner, when you go into a partnership, you are now sharing
Yes.
the liabilities and the benefits of that person's income or talents and things like that. That's why it's your shared resources.
Mm-hmm.
And you can think of it as, what's the second house of the fourth house? If the fourth house is your parents, right, or
Mm-hmm.
your home life or your parents, what are their resources? Their resources are the second from the fourth, the fifth house, right? So the resources of your parents, children,
Oh,
right?
wow. I
The
hadn't even
meaning of the
thought of
fifth
that.
house. Yeah.
Go on. Go on.
Love, the resources of the parents that they give the children love, creative self-expression, the confidence for you to fulfill your fifth house, those come from the resources of the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just a matter of, which meanings you want to assign to the house as you go around. Um, and then try and think. It's a meditative exercise in a lot of ways, right? To determine how these pieces all fit together. So, in a very practical way, if you're looking at relationships, if you're looking at the seventh house as representative of the ascendant of your partner,
Mm.
their career is going to be 10 signs away. Because in your chart, your career is 10 signs away.
Yes.
So, for
Mm-hmm.
you, starting at one, it's your 10th house.
Yep.
But if you start at the seventh, it's the fourth house.
Mm. Because
So,
you counted. And then, so do you count that first? Oh, okay. So the seventh is the first house. And then you go one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine, 10. Okay. Because that was the thing I wasn't too sure about to start with. Am I, because like when you count sometimes, but there's different ways of counting. So like whatever,
yes,
you do the next number, but it isn't. So that's number one. That's the first house. Okay.
right.
So, okay.
So,
So if you were thinking about your child's girlfriend or
yes.
boyfriend.
So it's the partner of your child. So in your chart, children are the fifth house, right?
Yep.
So you would take the fifth house
Mm-hmm.
in your chart as the ascendant of your child,
Yes.
and their partner would be your 11th house, right? Because it's the
Because that's
seventh house.
seventh from the fifth.
Yeah. So you would count counterclockwise, yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
around the chart to get to the house. But I think the biggest challenge sometimes is knowing where to put things, right? Like which house do you start with if you want to look at my boss, where does my
Right.
boss fall? And the way I learned is your boss is the 10th house, right? Because it's the authority in your
Yes.
chart. You're serving that person. So the 10th house represents your career, but it's also your boss. So if you want to understand what motivates your boss, where is the sun in relation to the 10th house? How many houses away? Maybe it's in your 11th house, then your boss
Oops.
is very
Stop there.
money motivated.
So
Yeah.
stop there. You said 10th house
Yeah.
and sun. So where are we doing the sun now?
Well, I'm just saying, like, if you're
Yeah.
looking at your 10th house as representative of your boss,
Boss. Yes.
and the sun in your chart is in your 11th,
Yep.
that's the second of the boss, right? So the boss may organize his life, the sun, meaning the sun, around money because that's the second house from the 10th. So your boss is
Oh.
very motivated by you earning money for him.
Oh, what an oh gosh. That is a lot of different things and different that is very meditative. Gosh,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be at this for the next 6 weeks now.
Yeah. So there's very much the practical application where you look at whoever in your life you want to understand a little bit better by the
Mm.
sign and the planets. And again, it's, you can even like literally turn the chart and put the 10th house in the right hand or the left hand side on the ascendant spot
Yeah.
and count around so you can, visually see it a little bit better. But one of the other things that my teacher taught me is on a more philosophical level.
Hmm.
If you think of the derived houses, and hopefully I can explain this correctly. He explained it to me in relation to something called the archetype, which I don't know if you're familiar with. A lot of people call it the natural zodiac. It's like Aries on the first
Yes.
house, Taurus on the second. So,
Yeah.
um, but if you look at that natural zodiac or the archetype, if you apply these derived houses, you can actually gain a lot of philosophical insight from the birth chart as well. So, in the natal chart, your eighth house is the house of death, right?
Yes.
But 8 houses away from any house is the death of those attributes.
Okay.
So
So
if
the
you think
eighth,
of it,
like you've got your siblings in your third, and then eight from
right?
the
So
third.
8 houses away from the third would be their death or like their debts
Wow.
and liabilities, whatever eighth house factors you want to think of.
Mhm.
So you can do it that way. Or if you think of the second house, right? Your resources and your income, your possessions, 8 houses away is the ninth house. So the death of attachment to possessions and resources is improving your philosophy. So you can get very meditative that way if you want.
Oh
Or
gosh, wow.
religion, finding religion, you detach from possessions and income.
Yes. I mean, my mother was born with sun in the 10th. Sorry, sun in the ninth, and my brother was born with sun in the ninth. My mother converted to be a Catholic at age 16. My brother didn't convert to
Wow.
anything because he didn't want to be a Catholic. So that was, but he was very into the things that he was into. And I thought it was interesting how two people, she gave birth to somebody who had sun in the same house and stuff. But if you're looking at the second and 8 houses on from your second, is the death
Ninth.
of your, sorry, ninth, beg your pardon,
Yeah.
the death of your attitude towards your own finances?
Right. So if you have a very strong second house focus and you're very concerned about what you own or earning money, that dies when you improve your philosophy or find religion, right? So 8 houses
Yes.
away, if
Mm.
you start focusing on that, um, that becomes the death of attachment.
Okay.
So
And then would you be looking at what's natally in there or what's transiting through there and
you
everything?
can. I mean, if you want to look at it more of a philosophical way, you don't have to worry about planets that are in there.
Hmm.
You can just think of the house itself.
Hmm.
So, if you think, if you are in the fifth house of children, 8 houses away is the 12th, right? The death of a
Hmm.
child causes suffering.
Gosh, I'm going to have to relook at so many of my clients' charts now. You've set
Yeah.
me off.
But that's it. It's like you just spin and
Yeah.
keep going around and around. But you can
Because
do that with any house.
yes, Donna Cunningham did explain that in one of, I can't remember which book of it was, but I think it was the one about uh something about the moon. She wrote a book about the moon, and it was all sort of that if you sort of learn about your moon, and then she recommended sort of moving it, that this house was then the starting of it, and then you could sort of count. And I read that and I sort of vaguely understood what she meant, but never really did anything with it. But she actually has a demonstration in the book about, turning it round, and you can shift it and you can find different things. But I was
Yeah.
always just thought that derived houses was more to do with, and I know I'm completely wrong, but I thought derived houses was something to do with like a orrery astrology, and you're sort of trying to find the this and that, the
It may. I
mother-in-law.
don't know
Yeah.
enough about orrery as a
No.
topic.
Mm.
This is just how I've applied it for natal chart,
Yes,
the
I'd
way I
never
learned.
thought of it as being as a natal. Oh,
But if you have a client now
oh. Mm,
and they're like, well, my older sister is really giving me a problem, we
mm,
really always fight. You can look at the third house. You can look at the way I learned it is the older sister is always the two signs above you, starting at your ascendant, and the younger sister is two signs below you. Like in general, siblings are going to be the third house. But if
hmm.
you want to pick and choose, if you have multiple siblings,
Five.
oh, wow.
Well,
Anyone?
four siblings, five children. Yeah.
Okay, so you then, excuse me. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold.
Oh,
Let me take some tea.
thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with us today with the challenge of a
Yeah,
of a
no, this is
cold. It's really
exciting. This is
kind. Yeah.
fun. You get me to talk for hours. I know you don't have that kind of time, but um, so if you're looking at multiple siblings or even multiple husbands or whatever, you would start at your house, your ascendant, and your older sister, like the next one above you,
Yes, I got one
would
above
be
me.
two houses away. So that would be the
Hmm.
11th house.
Why is it
And if you had
two?
it, I don't know. I
Oh,
can't
okay, that's
answer
fine.
that question. That's
That's
just the
fine.
way I learned it.
That's fine. Yeah. Hmm.
Um, and then if you had another older sister, it would be another two. So that would be your ninth house.
Does it make a difference if it's brothers or sisters?
No,
Right.
no,
Okay.
it's just
So
the age where
I
you are
had
in the
a,
birth order.
I've got a brother and a sister older than me, and two
Yeah.
sisters younger than me. But both of the oldest and the youngest are now in heaven. So I'm gonna have to be
Oh, okay.
checking charts.
Sorry.
Okay. Um. So the older ones are above, the younger
Yeah.
ones are below. Yes. And is it two down
Yes,
for the younger ones?
exactly. So if you're here, the next one younger than you is going to be the third house,
Yes.
and then the youngest would be the fifth house.
Okay. Oh, so
So,
when you're going downwards, you start with the third house
right.
sibling. But if you're going upwards, it's two houses
Yes.
up. Yes?
Yes. Yeah. So you can think of older, I'm going up and
Yeah.
over, and then younger, I'm going down and around.
But it's three houses you're going down and around, because you said if it's your older sibling, it's your 10th house. That's two houses up.
It'd be the ninth.
It'd be
So
the
your
ninth.
first,
Right.
yeah. So your first oldest would be the 11th. The next oldest after that would be the ninth.
Ooh. Okay. And
Right.
okay. So let's say you're working with a client, or you're working on your own chart. You don't need their charts anymore.
Right. Right. I mean, it's good because you will get more detail, but in terms of like general significance and,
Mm.
you know, traits, and you can get a lot of insight just by looking at your own chart and seeing how the planets are then configured to that person's ascendant, whatever you take as that house.
Mm. And when so this is a house question now, this is the one that ever goes
Yeah.
on. So are you using whole yourself? Do you use whole sign houses, or are you using Placidus? What
I do
house
not.
system?
I actually learned with Regiomontanus. That
Ah,
was what my
okay.
teacher taught.
Hmm.
So quadrant house system. But, in the last couple of years, I know so many astrologers now use whole sign houses.
Mm.
And it's just a matter of, I don't know, that's been a fascinating topic for me, is to figure out how to use them together. And
Hmm.
I haven't solved that question yet, but,
Mm.
are my quadrant house points in a whole sign just, more sensitive? Like, is it, I don't know, because I have a lot of Libra. I can make the case both ways. Like the eclipse on the IC, you know, threw my home life up in the air, but it was also specifically my child. so
Yeah.
so it's the fourth and the fifth, which is where my IC would be in a whole sign chart.
Mm. Yes, because we've had Reese Chatham on the show, and he talks about that there isn't one house system, and he uses different house systems for different issues or
Oh,
questions or whatever. Yeah, he's learned them all and uses them all. In
wow.
fact, he gave a talk to the Astrological Association last year
Hmm.
about all the different house systems and how they work. So he explained what the quadrant systems were versus the this systems and the that systems and whatever. But I think houses have gone. There's what's the word? There's sort of like a fashion to how. I mean, I seem to be one of the only people that does equal house.
Oh, okay.
There
Hmm.
aren't many people that do that, but I happen to like it because what annoys me is looking at a chart and all the houses are different sizes. I like everything to be nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
that's why I use the equalism. But yeah, but anyway, it doesn't matter because there's always these arguments about houses. It really truly doesn't matter what system you use as long as you're confident about the system you use. And in Reese
Right.
Chackham's case, it's he will, depending on what the question is from the client, use whatever system he thinks is right. I mean, I personally couldn't do that because I haven't got enough brain cells.
I know, right? That's a lot to keep straight, right?
Yeah. Um, but okay, so you can tell oh,
Yeah.
but as you say, so it all depends what you're taking as the starting point house. So
Mhm.
that's the more
And
important thing. Okay.
it is. So again, if you want to look at if you've had three marriages, right? Like
I've
so
only
your
had two.
first part I know. Well,
Okay, so first marriage would be the
your first
seventh.
marriage is the seventh house, right?
Right.
But if you want to look at your second husband, you would go up to the ninth house. Your second, so you would kind of go around the circle the opposite direction because you're starting at the seventh house.
Seventh house and then go round seven houses from the seventh house.
No, sorry. So it's two houses, but if
Right.
you start at the seventh as your first husband, the
Mm-hmm.
second husband is two houses up, so it'd be your ninth house.
Nothing in there. Mine's empty.
What's the sign though?
I'll do. Starts in the sign of Pisces.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute.
And
Which
then
one? So we're talking about ninth house. Big one. So
yeah.
out of a brain if I'll be helpful. Aries.
So Aries. So, I don't know where the Mars is in your chart and how you would connect that. But do you think he was much more assertive and outgoing than your first husband? Like, I don't, I would think your Pisces husband may have been more intuitive or sensitive or,
No, first
um,
husband was Gemini, second one's Taurus. But I'm just saying,
oh,
yeah,
okay.
my
All right.
my seventh house starts in Aquarius, and then
Okay.
my ninth house starts in the sign of Aries. But I've got a very
Okay.
late degree ascendant of Leo. But whatever.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if my ninth house starts in Aries, that represents my second husband, and then Mars
Yes.
is the planet. So I'd be asking questions like, is he more assertive? Do we want to punch each other in the nose a bit more?
Right, exactly. Were you attracted because that's very different from an Aquarius, right? Like Aquarius is very freedom loving, may have just let you do your own thing and not been very connected or, things like that. Whereas you then chose somebody who represented more of an Aries archetype, right? Who, was much more forceful or independent and, opinionated perhaps
Mm,
than the first person you married. And, we look at it like a regular natal chart. So you'd wonder where the ruler of the ascendant
the
would
ruler.
be and
Hmm.
what planets are then aspecting the cusp of the house and
Hmm.
right, so but you can gain more insight that way and without having to
Yes.
know. I've had clients who send me like the birth info for all of the people in their family. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm
Yes.
like, that's extra. I'm like, I'll just do it from your chart. So
Yeah. But then you could tell an awful, I can't believe that, 'cause this is just running through my mind. I can't
yeah.
believe how much more you'd be able to tell from someone's
Right.
own chart.
Right. Right. And you can look at sorry again,
Don't
let me
worry.
take some tea. If you're looking at your parents in your home life, that's the fourth house, right?
Yes.
But your grandparents would be the seventh. So the fourth of the fourth. So the
Fourth to the
fourth
fourth.
of the
One,
fourth
two,
would be
three,
your
four.
seventh. So
Seventh.
if you
Yes,
want to
that's
know
fine.
about your parents' childhood, look to the sign on the seventh house, four houses away.
And then what would that tell you about your grandparents? Your attitude towards them or their attitude towards your
It would be,
parents?
their upbringing. So if you're looking at your parents and your fourth house is Capricorn, so
Hmm.
you may have grown up, or this person may have grown up in a very severe or impoverished sort of home life. if you then look to the sign on the seventh house, that's going to be Aries, right? If I'm doing this correctly. Um, their experience as children, it may have been a very, aggressive or violent or, you know, a very, fiery Martian type of upbringing that they had as children that
Mm,
caused them to be so severe to you. So you
mm.
can sort of link together and get more insight that way.
Yes, because I have that. I now I did a recent podcast. I'm sure I did a recent podcast on it. Attitude towards your parents, because there's a lot of people that I seem to do readings for that have had diabolical relationships with
Mm.
their parents, like awful, and their parents have been, from their story that they're telling me, their parents were truly awful. And so I've sort of ended up having to do the charts of the parents to see what, because I'll be looking at synastry then, and past lives,
Right.
and there are
Hmm.
the planets that are in the same sun, were they brothers or sisters in a previous life, that type of stuff, to just sort of resolve things. But if I'm going to be doing it with derived houses,
Yeah.
then that's their chart. Then you don't need the other person's.
Right. And, not to discount what you're doing by taking the birth information of the other people and doing synastry charts. I think you get a lot more specific information that way. But if you don't have it, you can certainly
Mm,
speak to your client about, well, it looks like your parents, made your upbringing very difficult, but have you considered or do you know anything about their upbringing?
their
It looks
upbringing.
like they came from a very violent household and maybe that affected them. And
Mm,
I would say more often than not, they're like, oh, yeah, you know what? My father's father drank and beat him or whatever. And
mm,
then you can see how that influences the other houses. So,
mm. And so when did you discover this?
so this was actually part of the teaching with Robert. This was part of the curriculum that we did. And, I take no credit. I was
Mm,
taught this by somebody who learned it from someone else.
mm.
Um, but it's
But
been
I've not heard
very,
it used like that. I've only ever heard, I always just thought it was an orrery thing. You've like totally blown
oh,
my mind now. I just thought
yeah.
it was used in orrery charts just sort of find out, your wife's sister or something. Or
Right.
your husband. I was like, oh my goodness me. And so
Yeah.
that was part of his training to do. So
It
do a lot of
was,
people in
yes.
America do this?
I think derivations have become more popular. I don't know if it's the same method that he's teaching. Yeah, I haven't heard a lot of people say they do it specifically, but I know people who use the technique maybe without naming it. So,
Mm. Yeah, because
but
that's how
yeah,
I
I would.
found you. Because I was doing the girlfriend of the boy,
Yes,
Well,
yes,
and that was what prompted me to do the Google search. I was just thinking, oh, how would I do that? Must be derived houses, and that's how I discovered it. But oh,
yeah, yeah. So my favorite example that I put in, which was actually one from my teacher Robert Corre, which I should have credited him a little more explicitly in it, but was your sister's dog. Like if your sister's dog had a health issue and somebody came to you or your sister came to you and
mm,
it was like, I need to know about my dog. So first you'd want to find your sister in your chart,
right.
right? So you would either go, if it's an older sister, you'd go to the 11th, or younger sister, you'd go to the third. And then the dog, most people take small pets as the sixth
Sixth,
house.
yes.
But my teacher always said if you keep your dog in like sweaters or it's an Instagram influencer pet, like that's the fifth house, right? That's a
Yes, that's
pleasure.
that's a
That's a
baby thing.
beloved something or other.
Yeah.
So he would often take dogs like family pets as the fifth house. So
Mm,
you'd want to look at your sister, whatever house that is, as her ascendant in your chart, and
hmm.
then count five houses away, and that would be the dog. And then you can see the sign on the house, you look at the ruler and, all the other factors that you do when you're reading a chart.
And then you can take transits into account as well. So
Of
there
course
might
you can. Yes. Yeah.
the
You know,
sister's dog isn't well at the moment, and they've got Pluto
right.
transiting through the house type of thing or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Saturn and Pluto are conjunct. It's
Yeah.
next week. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Yes, it isn't long until that conjunction happens. One wonders what's
Yeah.
going to go on, because it hasn't
I
happened
don't
for an
know.
awfully long time, and blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Mm. Oh goodness, that's me now. I know what I'm going to be doing for the next few weeks.
Right, right. And then, again, like one of the things that I love to do is take it more as a meditative lesson. If you look at just a general chart and you think of the house meanings in relation to the first house, and then try and say, well, the fourth house is my foundation, right? It's that rootedness of the chart. But what's the rootedness of my partnership of my marriage. So if you're looking at your seventh house, for example, what's four houses from the partnership, right? So it's the 10th. My partnership is rooted because, I was attracted to this person because of our mutual reputations, right? You
Mm,
don't get a partner unless somebody vouches for you, you introduce each other, and you have, you know, you're not a crook.
yeah.
So
Yes, but you can be a crook, and people are, and that
you
does
can.
happen.
So,
What do they call those
excuse
romances that aren't so
me.
fun? There's a word for it. Destructive romances or whatever. I can't remember.
Yes, yeah.
Well, when people sort of scam you on the scam romances. Yeah,
Oh, yeah. Oh, like catfishing or something like that.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's
So,
funny because I've had clients, I tend to be very positive or like try and speak to the positive parts. And people, I will have people comment like, you just tell people what they want to hear, don't
oh, I
you?
get accused of that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I always say to them, I was like, no, my purpose is to show you the positive use of the energy
Yes.
that you have available. I
Mm.
could tell you that you're selfish and that lie and cheat or you're lazy, but wouldn't you rather hear like you really put in a lot of effort when you try and do something, or, you don't always have to be the first to do something. There's a way to phrase it that's very Libra,
Mm.
um, where you want to sort of encourage people without, you know, breaking them down, right? You want to
Yes.
invite them to live the best qualities of the chart, right?
Absolutely, yes. And that's what we
Yeah.
should be, because I'm always quoting Adrian Duncan, because Adrian Duncan was always talking about, you can scare the pants off somebody with their oppositions and their squares and all the rest of it. He said the key is to help encourage them for their sextiles and trines, unless, of course, they've got their squares.
Right.
They've got such a handle on their squares that it's not an
Right.
issue for them. But the joy in the chart will be the sextiles, the trines, which they don't even think about, because, well,
Right.
that's something I'm easier. Well, that's the thing that you can build on. And
Right. Or
yes,
even, a square is a motivating factor, right?
yes,
Like it's a motivation to solve the problem. You keep, it recurs over and over again. You need to figure out how to solve it. Here are the better qualities of both signs. How can you manage to do that instead of falling back into more destructive habits? So,
mm-mm-mm.
that counseling session that becomes a part of, any astrological consultation.
Mm. Very interesting. And so, which parts of your chart, if you could redo them, would you do?
Uh, I have a very strong Saturn, so confidence has always been an issue for me. I would have a Mars not in Libra, so I was a little less like hesitant to do things. And I have a Venus Pluto conjunction square Jupiter, so I like lots of shiny, pretty things.
Would you want to change those things in reality, or have you come to acceptance of them?
Um, I don't know. I mean, I had a very successful career in beauty PR and I loved every minute of it. So,
Mm.
um, I don't know. I mean, they brought me here. They motivated me to learn astrology. So I guess it's like you never know what you have and until it's gone. So,
Mm. It is funny. I always think it's interesting that the occupations that people had before they become astrologers, can they use those skills that they've had in something else? And I definitely think there's quite a lot of transferable skills, because it depends
definitely.
also what type of astrologer you are. There are astrologers that work one-on-one with clients. There are astrologers that teach. There are astrologers that run schools. There's astrologers that write sort of like articles. There are astrologers that do the stars every day and whatever. I was having a discussion last night with the AA Astro duets thing, about sun sign astrology, because I'm basically a sun sign astrologer, having written a book for each sign of the zodiac, but mentioned in there about what houses are and how to find your moon and your ascendant, blah blah blah. But sun sign astrology didn't start until the 1930s. It wasn't a thing. It was the column in the
Oh,
newspaper. No, it was
oh yeah.
it was the Daily Express in 1930. That's when they became fashionable. But people were doing astrology there. But there's so many different types of astrologer, and I know that I get emails sometimes from people listening to the podcast, and they go, "But I'm not an astrologer." Well, you don't have to be seeing clients to be an astrologer.
Mhm.
It's sort of like you could be interested in astrology, but you don't have
Right.
to be making a living in astrology to call yourself interested in astrology, or even to join an astro group or
Right,
whatever.
exactly.
Yeah, and like in your case, you're learning at such an early age. You wouldn't have been able to have been a professional astrologer. What age can you work in the US? 16 or 18?
16, 15 if you have like a parent sign something. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. So,
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have been able to make a living doing it at 12 unless your parents were encouraging you.
well, yeah.
Oh, okay. So can you do like then the career of your mother or the career of your
Yes,
father?
right. Yes.
Mm.
So again, like the way derivations was taught to me, and I think some astrologers may disagree with this, but parents in general are the fourth house, but the same sex parent is usually the fourth house,
Hmm.
and the opposite sex parent is usually the 10th house.
Oh, that makes sense.
So
Yeah, I like that.
so if you wanted to know the career of your mother, you would look to your fourth house and then 10 houses away,
Mm. Okay.
which would be your first.
Yep. Hmm.
So
Hmm. Gosh, you got it. So how do you get to a cousin then?
I guess you'd have to look, is it your mother or father's side? Because you'd have
Yeah.
to find them first,
Yeah.
and then their
Sister
sister,
or siblings. Yeah.
right?
Child.
And then, yeah, oldest or youngest. So,
Oh gosh, and then that would be a lot of counting. But you could still
right,
do it. Yeah. Oh, oh,
right.
oh, oh.
Or, the condensed version is to do the third, right? Because it's like extended family members. So,
Mhm. Yeah. And so with your children, so okay. So how
yeah.
how much of your children's charts have you done? Like, are you always checking them or how old are they now?
Do I do their solar returns. I try and see the main themes that are coming up for the year. I do every once in a while if there's an important event coming up around a specific month, I'll do a lunar return for them. Like my younger daughter is graduating high school in the US, so she's waiting on college decisions right now. So
Eee. Mm.
yeah, so January was not the best month in terms of like positive or definitive answers. There was a lot of deferrals. But March looks much better for her. So she'll get, some offers and some clarity and, finalization hopefully by March. My older daughter is about to go to the UK to study abroad. She leaves in a
Oh,
week, so
bless.
I will be there in March. I don't know how far you are from London. Uh,
90 miles.
oh, okay, that's far
Yeah.
when I won't have a car. Uh, um, but yes, so seeing, her lunar return and some of the transits for, the upcoming months while she's there. I've been taking a look. So
So she's going to go to college in the UK.
right, just for a semester. It's just a study abroad in her college from the US. So
Which part, do you know which part of London is she'll be going to?
I don't. She's
Is it the
yeah,
centre
I
of
don't know.
London itself, or is it
I
just
think she's
outside?
pretty central. I think she's
Okay.
pretty central. I think she said she was near Big Ben.
Okay,
I
yeah,
don't
that's the
know.
centre of London. Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Mm. And you're going with her?
No, my husband and I are traveling in March. It's the high school break, like
Hmm.
vacation break. So we're gonna go while my youngest is on break and go visit her for like a week. So we're just there
Oh,
for a little bit.
congratulations. I hope she has a
Yeah,
lovely time. If she gets stuck in
she
London,
will.
not understanding anything, to God, I used to
Thank
live in
you.
London. I don't live there now, but
Yeah.
it's not. So I went to an American school in Switzerland. So I grew up in the UK and my parents moved to Switzerland. Part of the family went there and a part stayed here because they were at universities. But I went to school in Switzerland. But I went to an American school in Switzerland. So I was working, studying with kiddies from US education. So I was in the US education. Then I came back to the UK and went back into the British education. It's terribly different. But in the US school that I went to, which was based in Switzerland, and was sort of getting to be friendly with kids there, even though we speak the same language, there's so many words that are different. And I've told this story before, but I tell you again, I was in a mathematics class and I asked the guy behind me, I was writing in pencil and I didn't have an eraser, except in the UK we use the word rubber. So I turned round to him and it was unfortunately a boy and I said, oh, you don't have a rubber, do you? And everybody fell about laughing. And I, for the life of me, didn't know what it was
Yeah.
until later. But yes, there's some words that are used in America that are sort of different to English, and we
Yeah.
apparently speak the same language. And then another person told me that actually American language is older English, so English has sort of moved away, but
Oh.
so that apparently what you speak and how you say it and whatever is proper. It's us that have got it all wrong because we've moved on, which I thought was
I don't
lovely.
know if I agree with.
But my stepson lives in the US, so his wife is American. But there are definite differences between the UK, but there isn't because you're speaking the same language, so you can eventually be understood. So it's not hard.
Yeah. I
But
visited in college. I went to London just to visit a friend who was studying in Paris, so I wasn't there very long. But I remember having something I needed to throw away, and I was like, "Do you have a trash can?" And they looked at me like I had three heads, and I was like, "Garbage." They're like,
no,
"What? Rubbish? Rubbish?" I'm like,
yeah,
"Yes, whatever you want to call it. I need to throw
yeah.
it away."
Yeah,
So,
it is those silly little things, but it's amazing how in the US astrology is much more accepted. It's still quite a quirky thing here. To say that you're an astrologer is like, oh, you've got six heads, but it seems to be in the US much more accepted. Why would you say that was?
um, I don't know. Maybe because of social media or the proliferation of so many different niche interests recently. Within the last 20 years, I saw it just even in my career in PR. Like we used to work with 10 magazines, and suddenly it was three magazines and 1,200 websites. Like there's just so
Mm,
many different niche things. I think the rise of the celebrity astrologer has helped. Someone like a Chris Brennan or the Astro twins or
mm,
Chani Nicholas, who I love and follow all of them. Um, I do think there's that as well. So,
mm. Because we've had astrology on the television, but not anymore. It used to be a thing in the
oh,
70s, 80s, sort of stopped around about the 1990s. I don't think there's any TV programs with astrology, on which there used to be. When I was growing up, there were.
yeah.
But yeah, and yeah. What I do think's nice is places where we are now, which is YouTube and also on the
Hmm.
podcast and stuff, that it's perfectly legitimate to talk about the things that you're interested in. And if other
Right.
people want to listen, they can. Whilst with just terrestrial television, we used to only have two channels in the UK. Well, we only had one
Hmm.
BBC, and then there was ITV, and then the others came later on. So you didn't have much choice. But now people have tons of choice, and they'll still choose astrology. And this it is much more popular. And I love the fact that that you can teach yourself astrology. I know it's tricky to do that,
It is. Yeah.
but you can really raise an interest because there's so much information out there, and then everybody's sort of disagreeing about how to do things.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of different things. I did find I can't remember the title of it, but one of the podcasts from Chris Brennan that I listened to was basically the gist of it was like how to become an astrologer, how to start doing astrology. And it was interesting because his like first story, or he said when he began, he would write out super long like
Yes.
analysis. He wouldn't do
Mhm.
it in person. I was like, oh my God, that's exactly what I did when I started doing charts. I was like, this was uncomfortable, this face-to-face sort of thing. So I was like, well, let me write it. And I would send people like 30 slides of analysis, and he was just saying you just kind of have to do it, and
Yeah,
it'll
but
be
he's a
awkward.
Scorpio
And
as well.
he is, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Mhm.
But he was saying, he's like, it's awkward and weird, and you're going to have clients who you just don't connect with, and some are going to be great. He said, but the more you do it, the more comfortable it'll become and the better it'll be. And I was like, that's the kick in the pants like language I needed to just say, you know what, okay, let's get a Zoom account, and I'll offer it, for people who don't want it written, we can do one-on-one. And it's much, honestly, it's much easier sometimes, I think, to do face to face because you get the immediate feedback, you can build a rapport with someone.
Mm.
But maybe that's my Libra. Like I do like the one-on-one a little bit more now. So,
Yeah, I mean, I did do quite a lot of writing when I first started up, but I did face to faces with people very
mhm.
early on. And I'm also an alternative therapist, so you can't do that.
Okay.
Well, you can do some of it
Mhm.
online, but the majority of the times it was face to face with people. So I was already, and I'm quite happy. to see people face to face. Um, yeah, so I'm not nervous or shy or any of those things.
Hmm.
I'm the absolute opposite of that. In fact, Leo ascendant, unfortunately.
Ah,
Um,
perfect.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, but working with people, I've never felt shy. So I've never
Hmm.
suffered, and I come from an enormous family, so I'm happy with people. So
Hmm.
me myself haven't had an issue with working with people. And if I make a mistake, I say I'm sorry. I try
Right.
not to.
Right.
And astrology, I don't know how you can make a mistake in astrology if you're following what you've been taught or you're following how a chart is.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's always you want to make sure that you're not giving, you know, financial advice or medical advice or anything like that. Like
Absolutely.
you have to just
Yes.
watch what you like how you present information, I think a lot of times. So,
Yeah. But one-on-one astrology like that is bordering on a counselling session in a sense.
mhm,
So I'm always recommending, and I'm plugging it on the podcast all the time, that if you're going to work one-on-one with people, at least take a counselling skills diploma, not to be a
right,
counsellor, but just the very basics of, how to talk to people, how to listen, how to keep records and all of that. But
right.
it was I'm always quoting Donna Cunningham, sorry, but Donna Cunningham in her book, which was like How to Be a Professional Astrologer, whatever, she was always sort of saying that it's really important when you're working with people that you take into account that you've got a human being in front of you, and that
Yeah,
you shouldn't be offering stuff to people that you don't understand, etc., which I completely
right.
agree with. But she also said there are so many people that know so much astrology and they're too scared to to
Mhm.
to do anything with it or to do a reading for someone. And I've never suffered for that. I started reading playing cards for friends when I was 13. I mean, you started astrology
Well,
early, I started cards early,
yeah.
but it never freaked me out, never bothered me at all. And I wonder sometimes with people what that fear is, that they're worried, that they don't know enough. And I say, you don't need to know that much because well, if you live in the UK, your client's not going to know
Yeah.
anything. They barely know what sign of the zodiac they are, let alone all the
Yeah.
planets and stuff. It's going to be lovely for them. They'll have a lovely
Yeah.
time. So, don't be such nervous about it.
Right. And I think that's the eternal Capricorn problem, right? Like, am I ever prepared enough? You know, especially I
Yes.
have Saturn retrograde in Gemini. So it's it's
Oh,
like
wow. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I definitely that's been the biggest hurdle for me. But the beauty of getting older, right, is who cares?
Yes. Yeah. Oh,
Like, I gotta
I've got Saturn in Capricorn, so yeah.
oh, okay, yeah.
Um, I don't. Yeah, I've got Jupiter in Capricorn. Which
Me
is
too. Yeah, I know, right? I always think of Jupiter and Capricorn as like, wow, things are great, but I better not get used to it because it's going to
yeah,
be harder to get it next time.
yeah. Yeah, if
Yeah.
there was one planet I could change in my chart, I think I'd prefer my Jupiter to be in this proceedings or yeah, rather
Oh,
it was in
Sag.
Sagittarius, yeah, than
Yeah.
Capricorn. But hey, we can't choose these things. Andrea, thank you very much for
Thank you. This was a
talking.
pleasure.
It was absolutely fantastic to hear about derived houses. Now I've got a completely different attitude towards them, and I hope people listening have enjoyed today's conversation. So we can find you at Soul MO. What am I done? So
Soul map
map. I
astrology.
can't read my own writing.
Yeah.
Soulmapastrology.com. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. And the derived houses link is on there. And if anyone has any questions, just message me through the site. I'm happy to have a conversation or do anything over email, whatever they want.
Sure. And if they want to book with you,
They can do it through the website as well. I don't have like a cart to check out or anything because I need to ask questions. So just message me through the site and I'm happy to get back to you and talk to you about rates and services.
sure. And you're based in New York City?
New Jersey, but yeah, New
Mhm.
York metro area, right around
Okay.
that circle.
Super. Oh, it's been
Yeah.
absolutely lovely talking with
I
you
know. So
today.
nice to meet you. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to turn the recording off, but it's
Okay,
really,
perfect.
really lovely meeting you today. Thank you very much for
Thank you.
coming.
Yes, have a great day.
Thank you.